Thank you all for being here today. We are excited. This is our first time offering a virtual workshop for parents. My name is Kathy Ricala, and I'm the Prevention Services Team Lead at Wedgwood Christian Services. I supervise a team of amazing group specialists who work in the community, encouraging young people, helping them to make healthy decisions that offer them a positive future. So our department at Wedgwood is often called Positive Youth Development, or PYD, so you might hear that throughout the workshop. The focus of the programs that we do in the community are on substance use prevention, healthy relationships, sexual risk avoidance, and leadership skills. So in addition to the programs that we do in school settings, we also have a teen leadership program, and that's called Teen Charge. We're hoping to give teens a voice in the community, but we also want to hear their perspective because it helps us to plan relevant and effective programming for them. So you'll be hearing today from our Positive Youth Development team at Wedgwood. We have Gina Boscarino, who's a group specialist. She's also the Teen Charge coordinator, and she coordinated a panel of teens who spoke to us at an advisory meeting in April. So we'll be talking more about what we learned from the teens and sharing some hopefully very helpful tips from them. We also have on the screen today group specialists Mike Steffes, Lexi Harvey, Heather Stimpson, and then our administrative assistant Derek Hernandez. So this is our Positive Youth Development team at Wedgwood. I did want to say that we are not therapists, though we do have counseling programs at Wedgwood. We have an outpatient program that deals with a wide variety of issues, and we also do residential treatment on the campus of Wedgwood, but we are our prevention arm of Wedgwood. So our job is to provide information and increase awareness and teach the young people skills, and that'll help them to make healthy decisions. So if you are interested in more intense services, we can make that connection for you. You can certainly look online, and I'll share a phone number at the end of our seminar with you as well. We're going to take questions through the chat box. If you're on a computer, you can click on the chat box on the bottom of your screen, and then it'll appear off to the side. You can type in your questions. We'll be monitoring them, and we'll answer them throughout. If you're on your phone, you can click on your screen. It's a little bit more difficult, but the chat screen will come up. You can type in your question, submit it, and then close that screen. It'll take you back to the Zoom video screen. So just a little bit about the how this is going to work today. I want to talk a little bit about how we got to our topic. One of the things that we do in our department is coordinate an advisory group called COACH, and that stands for the Coalition on Adolescent Choices in Health. And this is a group that meets quarterly, and we are usually spending our time learning about ways that we can reach out to the young people in our community more effectively. So we offer a training at each one of those meetings, and the meetings are open to the community. So if that's something that you'd be interested in becoming a part of, you are welcome to do that, and you can contact me, and we'll make sure that you get invited to those meetings. At our April meeting, a panel of teens discussed their perspectives on what it was like to go through a pandemic. What were some of their feelings? What were they coping with? The changes they had dealt with. They showed a lot of courage, creativity. They showed us hope, but they also expressed some anxiety and some concerns. And their comments revealed to us a theme that we want to address in today's workshop. So number one, they want to be connected. So they were struggling with their lack of connection. So that was one of the things that came up. They asked for their parents to help them feel more secure and safe. So we'll be talking about that. They also indicated that they want to be listened to. They want to be heard and understood. And again, we'll be sharing a little bit more about that. They also offered some very creative ways for coping. We're going to end our workshop today with some tips on coping together as a family. So with that introduction, I think we're going to get into our first topic area. And Mike Steffes is on board, and he'll be talking to us about helping your kids to feel safe and secure.
All right. Thank you, Kathy, for the nice introduction. And, one of my main things, of making your children feel safe and secure will also be touched on by Kathy in the next section, which is listening, which obviously is super important to making them feel secure. So again, as Kathy mentioned earlier, I'm not a therapist, don't have any degrees in psychology, but I do have some experience working with youth, working with teens and young elementary students as well. So through mentoring, through reading, through experiences, and these are some of the tips that I came up with, for making your children feel safe and secure. So first, show the importance of naming emotions and expressing, their fears and worries. So, one example you could do, this may seem too simple, but each evening, either at dinner or some family time, any opportunity you have, you could ask, what's the best part of your day and the most difficult or uneasy part of the day. That could just be one example. Whether it's before bed, at the dinner table, which is, I know, well, maybe now during quarantine, maybe a little easier to eat dinners together, but I know it's unfortunately a lost pastime in many homes because of the busy schedules. But having a time for your kids to talk about what went on in their day, and maybe you have a teenager that's just going to say good and everything's great and that's it. But at least you give them that platform to speak. So second, goes with the first about expressing emotions. Don't dismiss feelings, hoping that your child will become more resilient. This is one of the fallacies of the American culture. Of course, not, in entirety, but, we have many stereotypes, saying, just push forward, keep going on, pick up your bootstraps, just kind of hide your emotions, press them down, and you just have to be tough. I think the earlier you can teach your children about emotions and their feelings, the better off you're leading them going forward in life, in their future, and especially during the hard and uncertain times of life, which everybody's going to experience. So it's important to, give them that time and affirm them for, expressing emotions or having emotions and not, tough it up. Men don't cry. You just got to keep going forward. It's okay if you get bullied. None of those stereotypes or things. Let them have that freedom to express their emotions, their feelings. Another example or tip: offer them advice when necessary, but not overwhelming. So, they may ask a simple question, probably doesn't need an hour response of different examples, but you can give them, one or two examples of, how you can deal with this or that, but not too much, because of course you want your children to come back to you. So offer them practical advice without being too much. Another tip: validate and empathize with your youth. So validate their feelings, validate what they're telling you. Listen and basically tell them back what you heard or what you think you heard about what they're going through right now. If they had a hard day, empathize with them and let them know that you're here for them and you want to help them get through their tough time. If they're struggling, obviously any part of life there's adversity and challenges, but especially during those teenage years. So make them feel that you know that they are loved and that you're with them and that you're gonna support them. Another important tip: let them know it's okay to fail. Don't add too much pressure. We can often live in a perfectionistic society where you have to be a 4.0 student. You must excel in all your extracurricular activities and everything else, and get into a good school and then get a great job. The teens today have so many pressures, just from society, from their peers. So when they're added pressure from parents, of course we want children to do well in whatever they do. I'm not saying that we should settle for mediocrity, but also letting them know that it's okay to fail. So if they fail in academic course on a test, if they fail in an extracurricular activity, support them. Tell them, it's okay to fail. Everybody fails, but that's where the true leadership and your life can really grow from failing. I mean, you can look at so many great leaders. Of course, Abraham Lincoln, one of the most famous ones, who've failed many times but was very resilient. Martin Luther King, obviously I can go on and on. Even Michael Jordan failed early in his career. So whoever it may be, people fail. I've failed. I'm sure you failed. It's part of life. We're not perfect. So letting them know that that's okay, but learn from your mistakes, learning from the failures. That's the important part. Another tip: defend when possible, and always show your love and support. So defend your children when you can. I realize not every time is possible. Maybe they did get in trouble and they deserve, to receive their consequences. But, defending them, showing them that you have their back, because you're their parent, you love them, you want to be there with them, you want to support them. So defending them when possible is, very vital for them to really gain your trust, knowing that you have their best interest in mind. Because if you defend them, then hopefully that's going to build that trust that you need in any relationship, but especially parent to child relationship. Another tip: do not intentionally put your problems on your children. As humans, we all have our own sets of problems. We all have our own baggage. And, it can be hard sometimes to, keep it to ourselves. So hopefully we have healthy outlets that we can relay them to. But, do your best not to put that on, your children. So whatever the problem may be, letting them, do their best to live their life without worrying too much about your own problems. Another tip is consistent boundaries. So family rules are important, but also being very consistent, with them, and letting them know where the boundary is. Especially teenagers are going to test and test and test the boundaries and try to figure out what they can and cannot do. So that consistency is, very vital. And also, first and foremost, you are the parent, not the friend. So of course you want to defend, you want to be there, you want to listen, you want to do all these great things for your children. But at the end of the day, you're still their parent, and they're coming to you. They need you to be a parent. They don't need you to be a friend. They have other friends in school, but you can be that example. And that consistency and setting boundaries and having boundaries in the family system is also very key. So, of course, trust is very important to any relationship, but trust your children until they prove you wrong. Obviously, if they have done something repeatedly against your wishes, you may not be able to keep trusting them over the same things. But when you can trust them, allow them, make them know that you do, so that way, again, that relationship can grow. You can build that, so just encourage to keep them, innocent until proven guilty. So hopefully that trust can grow, and you can continue to go from there. All right, and finally, and most importantly, be available. Give your children the time of day. I know we live in a very busy world, but be open and honest. Let them know that it's okay to talk about anything, whether that's the things that, even if they make you awkward or your spouse, feel awkward. Could be sex, drugs, alcohol, family, even if it's family pressures or friend pressures to do different things, peer pressure. But knowing that you're available and you're able to talk to them, that's going to give them a trusted adult that they can go to. So availability is obviously very key. So making yourself available to your children is vital, and you can do that in obviously many different ways. You can't force conversations. You can't force them to tell you exactly what you want, but you being available, you doing things with them, just enjoying life together, having a fun time, playing games together, going for walks, going out to golf, going to some sort of event, whatever it may be, going out to eat. It's in those little moments that something may spark, and then they may, come out and say, hey mom, hey dad, what about this? What about that? And then again, give advice, talk about things, try your best not to overwhelm, but availability is very key to making your children safe and secure. And with that, the availability, obviously there's listening. That's, very vital to your relationships with your children. So I'm going to pass it on here to Kathy, and she's going to talk about, the importance of listening.
Great. Thanks, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, now that we're all staying home for a little while longer, we can certainly be available to our teens. Our teen panel in April, they did talk to us a lot about their desire to be really listened to and to know that they are heard, because they're craving connection, they crave attention, and they crave adult attention, even though it doesn't seem like it at times. They really do want their parents to pay attention to them, and they really do want to talk with their parents, but they want to be heard. Think of a time. Can you recall a time for yourselves when you had something important you wanted to share with someone? You shared it, you said this, you made your statement, and then they responded back to you about something that didn't even relate to what you said. Does not feel very good. You don't feel heard at that time. And then think about a conversation that you've had with someone who, when you shared what you need to share, they respond back to you to show how much they understood what you said, how good that feels. Well, that's what our teens want. That's what they're asking for. So we're going to talk about some tools that will help them to feel listened to and understood. And the first thing seems very obvious, and that's to give them your full attention. There's a lot going on right now. Even staying at home, there's a lot going on. And we are tempted to multitask. But when your child is asking for your attention, that's the time to turn off the TV, to put the phone down, to get away from the screens and really give them your full attention. It might involve changing locations. You need to move to a different room. Maybe there's too much distraction in the living room and you need to go somewhere else or go outside. And it's okay to ask them, where would you feel most comfortable having a conversation? And then move to that area. So a little balance with this. So we want to give them our full attention. However, teens have told us that they feel more comfortable if there's an out for them, kind of a safety valve if the conversation gets too serious or it gets awkward with them. It's helpful to be doing something else together, like taking a walk or riding in the car, or having a meal together. That way, if the conversation gets awkward, you can concentrate on that for a minute, and that helps to foster good communication during that time. So we don't want to multitask, but we do want to give your kids a chance, an out if they get feeling uncomfortable. I know I have 3 grown kids, and with my teenage son, when he was a teenager, I used to go play with him. I'd play basketball with him or play cornhole in the yard. If I knew he needed to talk, that was when he tended to open up to me and talk about things. So something to keep in mind. The next thing to help your teen feel heard is to use reflective listening. And this involves respectfully listening and then reflecting back what you've heard. So it means listening without interruption and without judgment. And it doesn't mean you agree. And sometimes it's hard to not jump in if you don't agree with them. But it's important that we don't interrupt and that we try not to interject our judgment and our reaction into those conversations. So it's really about creating a safety zone where your child feels comfortable talking with you, free from interrogation, free from interruption, free from your strong reaction. We need to be intentional with this. This is hard. I could give a whole webinar based on my strong reactions and shutting down conversations with my own teens. It's something that you have to plan for. So one of the best ways to actively listen is to check in and then to reflect back what you said. So here are some examples. I think I heard you say, and then reflect back what you thought. Not seeing your friends right now is making you feel sad. Something like that. Or, would I be correct to think you meant? And then whatever it was they heard. For example, when I have the news on too much, it makes you feel anxious during this time. Or, I was following you until, could you explain what you meant after that? So questions can be really helpful. It can show that you're at least attempting to understand if it's difficult to do so. Reflective statements then give your teen a chance to explain if you didn't hear something correctly, and it can reduce the chance of misunderstanding. Keep in mind, your teens are very reactive. In this stage that they're in, brain development, the emotions are firing rapidly, and they often react emotionally. Also, if their emotions seem over the top, trivial, their world is different than your adult world. They don't have your adult years of experience and perspective. They're still growing into that. So events for them might seem very big, bigger than they seem to you, but they're very big to them, and we need to respect that in their stage of development. So resist the temptation to dismiss their feelings. Oh, that's nothing, that's not a problem. Or resist the temptation to choose to show them how much bigger your concerns are. Oh, you're worried about that? Let me tell you what I have going on in my life. This is one thing we heard from our teens. This does not help them feel heard when you make your problems bigger than theirs. There might be a time and a place for sharing some of your concerns another time, but when they're asking to be heard, that's not the time. So this style it's really about being an active sounding board and a way to make sure that young people are guided to clarify their own thoughts. As I said, when you reflect back to them, sometimes it gives them a chance to hear them. Oh, is that what I'm sounding like? And this can help them increase in wisdom. They learn about themselves. It can help them grow in wisdom. And this is a really important steps for teens when they're still developing, for parents to give them this guidance. However, I wanted to say something about our panel of teens said sometimes they don't want to hear solutions. Sometimes they don't want advice. Sometimes they just want to be listened to. And it's okay to ask them, what do you need right now? Do you want me to just listen to you? Or are you looking for me to help brainstorm solutions to whatever it is that you're going through now? They really appreciated that question. All right, moving on. Keep reactions to a minimum. I mentioned that. And again, this takes practice. You want to plan ahead. Our strong reactions can definitely shut down communication, cause teens to stop. You know, when your teen comes and tells you about their latest crush, you go right into a lecture about the dangers of early dating or STDs. Your horrified teen may shut down at that moment and not want to talk to you about those things anymore. Again, I can do a whole webinar on this one. And jumping to their rescue is very natural. As parents, we want to do that. We want to protect our children. We have adult perspective. We know things. But if we do it too quickly, it can shut down what they want to talk to you about. So if we can control our reaction, this can turn into a great time to talk. We can make it a teachable moment, which would be actually a topic for another webinar, talking about teachable moments and how we can use them. So we want to listen to our teens and we want to validate their feelings, but just to note to be careful about over empathizing, to take on your child's pain as your own. As I mentioned, teens their emotional center of their brain is very active. And sometimes their emotions can go like a roller coaster. They might feel one thing one way, and they might feel an opposite way the other day. He or she might be very upset with a friend and tell you about it. And if you jump in like, oh, I've never liked that friend anyway, and let me tell you about their parents. Oh my goodness. The next day, they're friends again. They've worked it all out. They're not feeling that same way. They might actually feel embarrassed to come back to you and talk to you about that if you've jumped in too quickly. And again, communication is shut down. So what's more helpful is to maybe offer constructive advice gently if they're open to it. What did you learn from this situation? What might you do differently next time to keep those communication lines? You can talk about those situations with your child. Then teens then become more comfortable bouncing ideas off their parents. And that's what you want to be. You want to be a sounding board for them and someone that they feel safe to come to and ask questions. So in summary, listening for understanding. Your children want to talk to you and they want to know you're listening. Giving them your full attention, using reflective statements for understanding, and remaining calm that can grow into a lifetime of healthy communication for you. So our next section here that we'd like to move on to is to talk about some tips for coping together during this difficult time. And I'm going to turn this over to Miss Lexi Harvey.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I am a visual person. I made a PowerPoint. I think I can share it. Nope, I can't. Okay, so I'm not the host, but so I will just kind of.
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. But yeah, like Kathy was saying, and Mike, they did a great job talking about just creating that security and feeling like your children feel listened by you. And so I kind of did a little summary of everything too. So what your kids need during this time is that they need you to engage with them and keep them informed. And what I mean by this is, if they have questions or they've heard things or they see the news, don't be afraid to have those conversations with them. But also, like Kathy was saying, sometimes news and over-information can cause anxiety. So even just turning off the TV sometimes and just focusing as a family and talking about what they need in those moments. They also need to be encouraged to spend time outdoors and off of social media. I think this is super important for our teens just because there's so much access to information and stressful, images and their friends and all different experts talking about different things that are going on. So encourage them to spend time outside and really disconnect sometimes from electronics. They also need structure and schedule. I know that even just for myself personally, this pandemic has really shifted how I organize my day, and it's really stressed me out not to have my schedule. So just imagine how our kids are feeling with that. And like Kathy was saying, they need to be heard and understood. And so using those active listening skills, they need family time, and they need creative ways to hang out with friends and peers so that they can still feel connected. So what does that look like? How do we normalize this new lifestyle? This is something that no one has ever really had to deal with before. So I'm just going to go into a few examples of what you guys can do with your families to try and cope in this. And it's a new learning game for everybody. So whatever works for your family is great, but these are just a couple tips that I came up with. So again, trying to create a schedule. I think that's the best thing that you can do for your own mental health and for your kids, is to figure out what can we do to block time out during the day. We do schoolwork from 9 to 12. We have a break. We have outside time. We have quiet individual time. And post this somewhere in your home where they can see this and they can rely on it to have the same schedule that they normally would with school or with you at work. And for older teens and middle schoolers, I know that can maybe seem a little bit juvenile. So I also came up with the idea to even just give them a list that they can do during the day and that they can check things off so that they can feel like they're being productive and getting things done. And I just think by doing this, you can create a transition into this new lifestyle that we're in right now. Another thing that is super, super helpful and also just breaks up the mundane day-to-day of being inside is having nightly activities or like themed night. This can be a great way to bond with your kids and with your family and just trying to ease a little bit of the tension that this pandemic is causing. So you can do family game night, you can do a movie night. If you're more of a creative type, you can do a family scavenger hunt in your house or outside. You can also do arts and crafts, which if you have a Pinterest account, I would suggest getting one because you can find plenty of easy things to make with your family that is super fun. And the point of these activities is to get your mind off of things because normally we can't go to the movie theaters anymore. We can't go mini golfing or other activities that we would normally like to do. So it's kind of bringing those things into your house and still creating that family fun and relieving the stress of what we're in right now. And again, kind of like what Kathy was saying, and Mike touched on this too, listening and sharing is so important, especially now that we have all this extra time to really understand one another. And so like Mike was saying, you can do highs and lows at dinner, at bedtime, or just whenever you have quiet time with your family, just going around and sharing something great that's happened to you today or that week, and something that's like been on their mind that's stressful for them. And this might seem silly to the older teens, but it creates that trust and boundaries with your kids that can be really bonding for everybody and for yourself to feel like you have the support of your kids too. Another one is connecting outside of the home. And this is tricky, obviously, because of where we're at right now. But being around our families can cause a lot of tension and stress, and we're not used to being with each other 24/7. And so connecting even with just like my neighbors have been chalking on the sidewalks and just like leaving each other messages or drawing pictures. You can set up pen pals with your children's friends and family. I've seen a lot of people decorate their windows with encouraging messages to neighbors and to healthcare workers to feel connected to one another. And then, of course, like we all have been doing Zoom and FaceTime, it might feel like it's getting old, but it is so helpful to sit down with a friend or a grandparent or an aunt and uncle, cousins, and just have a chat and get, catch up with one another, play a game, and spend time that way. And then last but not least, this is for the parents, is keeping yourself healthy. It can be so stressful during this time to have to work at home, take care of your kids, you're a teacher, you have your own job, everything is all smushed into your house now. And so you have to find a way to keep yourself healthy so you can keep your family healthy. And so you can do this by exercising, and this can be a family activity or individual. But every day I've been going on walks after work for like a mile or two just to clear my head and just get some space outside of my home. Making sure that you're eating healthy. I know the quarantine snacks are so fun and delicious and can be very comforting at times, but making sure you're fueling your body with healthy foods, and then getting enough rest at night, again, which can be difficult for people with anxiety, but trying to make sure that you're getting 8 hours of sleep and resting so you have a clear head. And then the communication aspect of staying in touch with supportive friends and family members and communicating with your spouse or partner for support, and just really creating those communications that help you feel like you have a clear mind and a clear space so that you can take care of your kids. And those are the tips that I have. I think that these can be done super easily and that you can bond with your family really well during this time. And that even though it's really difficult for everybody, this is a great opportunity to get to know yourself and get to know your kids better in creative ways. And that is all
Awesome.
I
Very
have.
good. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add our teen panel. I was really impressed with them. They were taking the time to learn to play new instruments and learn languages, and they really were using this in a very positive way. That was pretty cool to see that, and I guess we could look at this as a time to grow together too as a family, and I think everybody has given us good tips for doing that. Are there any questions, or did anybody have anything else they wanted to add to any of it, I guess? You're certainly open to those. All right, well, we may finish up a little bit early then today. I do want to thank you for joining us. Thank you to the team for sharing your best thoughts. I think this team's amazing. We will be sending out a survey to get your thoughts about the workshop. And definitely, if there's any topics that you are interested in hearing more about in the future, we'd love to hear those. Parent programs is something that we do with all of our programming. We have several grants that fund our programs, and that's part of it. So we would love your ideas. If anyone's interested in becoming a part of the coach program, the coach advisory group, we'd love your participation. It's open to the community, so and you don't have to be a professional either. You can be a teen or a parent or work for an organization that serves them, and you are welcome. If there's anybody who is seeking counseling services through Wedgwood, again, it's easy to find Wedgwood Christian Services online, but here's a phone number in case that works best for you. We do have an intake specialist who's able to take those calls and determine best course of treatment. The phone number is 616-942-7294. 616-942-7294. So I thank you very much for attending today. We're happy that you made this a part of your day, and I hope it was helpful for you. And we wish you good conversations and good family time and good coping skills together. And we also wish that you stay well. So thank you very much. I think with that, we will be ending our meeting today. Take care, all.